This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about what to do in extreme weather conditions. And this could be anything in your area from freezing cold weather, really hot weather, a lot of rain, wind, things like that. And we deal with all of these here in my area. So I'm going to go over some tips to deal with weather conditions that, of course, are out of your control. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. And I'll start with what is commonly asked, and that is, when do you skip the service of that account? Now, of course, in extreme heat, you can't skip the service because if you don't go there, the pool is going to turn pretty ugly pretty fast. Although you would probably want to skip the pool, you just can't skip it in extreme heat. Now, what you can do in extreme heat, of course, is just do the pool as quickly as possible and do the limited amount of activity necessary to clean that pool and add chemicals, things like that, and get out of there as soon as possible. One thing I should say is that here, one thing that's nice about my area of Southern California is that some of the pools do have trees. Others have a wall that's kind of giving the pool shade because the sun hasn't passed that part of the house yet or a neighbor's house. So if you can plan your day to where you're able to hit those pools that have a little bit of shade later in the day, that does help you out. I wouldn't necessarily do those pools in the morning because you're going to need to utilize that shade later when you're working past a certain hour when the shade is actually going to come in really handy. And also, when I say do the minimum work, you're not going to be vacuuming the pool in a lot of situations because it's just too extreme out there. Later in the day, maybe in the morning you can do more work, but later in the day you want to do as little work as possible. Now back to when you should skip a pool. Well, there are 2 occasions, or actually I'll say 3 occasions, I'll take that back, where you can skip the stop, and it's something that is commonly done because you really have no other way of being safe out there. The first one that I normally would skip is if you're in a windstorm and the wind has gusts of 40 to 50 mile an hour or even higher than that. So anything over 30 mile an hour gusts is, in my opinion, a futile and dangerous situation. It's futile because so much debris is being blown into the pool as you're cleaning it. So you can't clean that pool. It's just one of those things where you skim it and then 20 seconds later, all the leaves blow back in the pool. Also, there's danger. There's power lines. There's dangers of branches falling on you. There's just too much going on for you to be out there cleaning a pool in the midst of a windstorm with the gusts are over 40 to 60 mile an hour would be my limit. 30 mile an hour, I mean, I've been out there with there's gusts like that, but the wind's blowing maybe 15 or 20 mile an hour continuously, and then you have those big gusts. Can't do much either. You can just empty the skimmer baskets. Sometimes the wind calms down a little bit, but anything over, in my opinion, 40 miles an hour or more, the gust, not just sustained wind speeds, I should say, but gusts of those amounts just is futile. And you just have to judge, how windy in your area it has to be before you throw in a towel that day. So that day is pretty much skipped. there's no need to even go to those pools, in my opinion, because it's a waste of everyone's time. You can't do anything anyway. And in my area, they'll turn the power off in a lot of areas where the winds are really strong to prevent fires from forming. So that's when I would cut it, when it's like that. Another one would be when there's thunder, when there's a lightning storm predicted. So if you're having a thunderstorm predicted in your area, or there's going to be lightning and thunder, you have a risk of being struck by lightning. Now you may sound like this is impossible, and the odds are probably better than 1 in a million, I think. And even over your lifespan, the odds are very low. However, to make these odds zero, you don't want to be out there when thunder and lightning is happening, holding a pool pole in your hand, aka lightning rod. And if you think that lightning won't strike your area, you're probably mistaken, because I've had accounts, and I've mentioned this before, one account where a tree branch was hit by lightning in the driveway, where I walk up and down that driveway all the time. And so I figured if I was actually standing there at that moment with my pool pole when the lightning hit that tree branch, it probably would have hit me in the driveway. And then I also had an equipment pad shorted out, because it was on the side of a garage, and they had a cable going up to the top of the garage and then over the roof down wherever the breaker was. And so that actual line that was going straight up was like a lightning rod, hit that pole with the wires in it, went down into the equipment and blew out the motor, blew out the timer. Everything was pretty much blown out by the lightning strike through the electrical line there. Also blew out the breaker. So, and of course, I stand in the equipment area every week, and so I could have been hit if I was there at that moment. So that's the second time that I will not go out when there's a thunderstorm predicted in the area, and there's an actual warning from the National Weather Association saying you shouldn't be out there because of thunder and lightning. And then the third time where I think it's necessary just to not go out is when it's raining 2 to 3 inches in that period of time where you're scheduled to service those pools. Number one, it's extremely dangerous to drive in that kind of weather, especially in Southern California. And number two, there's absolutely nothing you can do at the pool at all, basically, when it's raining that hard. I have a pair of frog togs. These are like a weather suit. Now, we'll wear those when it's kind of misty out, when you're getting less than an inch of rain, because here in my area, when they say an inch of rain, it could be like half an inch for the whole day, basically. So it's not really that bad of a rain. It's more like a drizzle. And these come in handy. You can get them on Amazon. They're called frog togs. They're pretty good for wet weather. And then on the flip side, it is just completely useless to go out there when it's 2 to 3 inches of rain, because you can't even see the bottom of the pool. You can barely see the surface of the pool in a lot of cases. You can't do much. You can empty the baskets, I guess, and you can check the chemicals, but the readings aren't going to hold up anyway. And I would say that that's an extreme case. And if it does happen in your area where you get that much rain, here in California, usually 1 to 2 inches of rain is like the maximum. Of course, one thing you have to note is that the Weather Channel gets things wrong sometimes. So before you cut the day entirely, you may want to look out your bedroom window to see if it's actually raining and pouring out there before you call quits, because the rainstorm may have been a miss. Even if with 90% rain predicted here in my area, the forecasters have missed several times. Sometimes they'll predict 10% rain, and it's more like they should have predicted 100% rain. So it varies. And if you're out there doing pools and you get caught in a 30-minute rainstorm, sometimes you could just wait it out. Other times you might as well just finish your day and not finish your day and just call it quits if it's going to be raining the rest of the afternoon. So sometimes, again, you can do partial routes. You can start in the morning, and then by 10 a.m. the rain's just moved in to a point where you can't go out any longer and do pools, and that's perfectly fine too. And you may have started your day, and then it starts pouring on you, and then you just end your day early. Again, very acceptable out there when you have so much rain that you can't even see the pool anyway, so that's pretty futile. So those are some extremes, and those are the cases where I would say it's okay to and call it quits for that. And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. day. Now let me talk about extreme cold. Now in California, what we consider extreme cold is like when it's like 35 degrees out there in the morning. We're freezing. But of course, other parts of the country, that's like a warm morning for you. But here, that's pretty cold. And cold days are no fun for pool service. Your hands are freezing. Everything, your face is freezing. Sometimes it's windy. The pool water is extremely cold when you put your hands in there. And by the way, if you go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and you scroll down to the very bottom of the website, I have what's called pool guide gear. And in there, you're going to see the frog togs that I mentioned for the rain. And then you're going to see these gloves. They're called, I'm going to click on the link right now. They're called Atlas 772 nitrile coated gloves. They're 26 inches long. These are used a lot for, people working in freezers. They're chemical resistant, and they go up to on me, they go above my elbow. These are really great for that cold morning when you start and it's like in the high 30s, low 40s, and your hands are freezing. Have these gloves available and put them on your hands when you do your stop. And then when you get to your truck, take them off and put them on your dashboard where the heater's at, get them to heat up again. And you can use these for the first 3 or 4 stops until it starts warming up a little bit in the morning. The air temperature warms up to enough to where your hands aren't freezing. And sometimes you have to put them back on again later in the day when the temperature drops down again. I've had that happen as well when the cold air starts blowing in again. And they're really great for keeping your hands warm out there. And I recommend them. I recommend you have a set of these on hand. I buy the large ones for myself. That way I can wear a pair of cotton gloves in there if I need to. And this really helps you because you're grabbing your pole with them. You're emptying out the skimmer basket with them. And it's really saving your hands from getting that frostbite feeling. So I recommend it. Again, go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Very bottom, pool guide gear, you'll see the frog togs, and you also see the nitrile gloves that I mentioned for the cold water. And definitely get a pair of those and get a pair of the frog togs as well. Let me back up again and talk about extreme heat. Now, one thing that is kind of important when you're looking at the weather for the week, and I'm obsessed with the weather forecast, I'll admit it. I'm looking at it all the time. And what you want to know is when the heat wave is coming so you can plan for it. You would want to plan for it in various ways, but the best way to plan for it, again, is to try to have your pools where there's some shade later. The last thing you want to be doing is doing 2 or 3 pools where the sun's just beating down on you the whole day. It's pretty miserable. You also want to start your day as early as possible. When it's going to be extreme heat, you're going to be at your first stop before the sun comes up. You can't even see daylight yet. Just sit there and wait until a little bit of daylight breaks. And again, this is strategic planning. These are the pools that you want to do in the morning, really early, where there's no barking dogs, where you're not going to disturb the customer by opening the gate by their bedroom window, I should say, and you're not going to wake up the customer because the pool's right up there against their patio. So find strategic pools to start your day with where they're further from the house, no barking dogs in the neighbor or in the yard itself, and that way you can get to those pools early, knock them out, and get to the other pools as fast as you can. And again, just look at your route, make it very strategic so that maybe it's set up this way every week, and so that way you know that even if it's really hot, you can get to the pool early in the morning and start as early as possible. One thing you would want to have in place is a service agreement. This is not a binding contract, but this is an agreement of what the customer can expect of your service and what you expect the customer to do at their pool. And in this contract, and I have a copy of one in Word format, you can alter it and edit it any way you want to do it. And you can get a copy by emailing me at david@swimmingpoollearning.com. Again, that's david@swimmingpoollearning.com. And I do have a rain policy here that I use, and it's a pretty basic one. It says chemicals will be added and pool will be cleaned the following visit. So basically, I'm just going to do chemicals only when I go out there again, depending on the amount of rain you're getting, and then the pool will be cleaned the following week. Now, if you're getting weeks of rain continuously, and I've talked about this before where, if you have a service day on a Wednesday, it's raining that day and you decide to skip it, but the following week shows 100% rain on the next Wednesday, I would suggest, if you can, move those Wednesday pools the following week to a Monday, and then you can skip that second Wednesday again, and then those Monday pools, you can maybe skip that week that you're going to do the Wednesday pools on. I know it gets complicated when you have 2 or 3 weeks of rain. But what I'm saying is you can move pools around so that if it wasn't raining on the previous Monday and it's not scheduled to rain on the following Monday, you can move those Wednesday pools to Monday the next week, maybe skip the Monday pools or do a few of them. And that way you can skip the Wednesday again because of the rain predicted those 2 Wednesdays in a row, if that makes sense. Then I have a wind policy also here, and it's noted like this. Pools affected by wind will be cleaned in the following manner. Number 1, clean out filtration system. I keep it very vague, and that way I have a lot of leniency of what I do that first week of the windstorm. Clean out filtration system means that I get everything running. The pump is running, so that means I skim the surface basically to get the pump basket empty, and the skimmer basket is also emptied, so that everything is running. Then the second thing I do is skim the top. The third thing I do is clean the leaves off the bottom, and the fourth is vacuuming. And then there's a note here. This process could take up to 3 weeks. So there's no actual week-by-week time limit I'm giving myself here, except that it could take up to 3 weeks, which in reality sometimes it does. So the first week I may just be able to get the pump and skimmer basket cleaned and skim the surface, and I can't do the bottom of the pool. Sometimes I can do all 3 of them, sometimes I can't, and sometimes I can't vacuum out the dirt on the bottom. So all those are ways so that I'm communicating clearly with the customer of what I can do during those extreme weather situations. And then you can add stuff if you wanted to, or remove stuff. I keep it as basic as possible so the customer can understand it, and you're not really creating yourself a kind of binding agreement where you're like saying on a rainy day, you're going to assess it and see which pools you can do in the rain and which ones you can't. That's too vague. Customers are going to be expecting to come out there when it's a 1/4 inch of rain or 1/2 inch of rain. You may think that's too much rain. So just say, like I put here, chemicals will be added on a rainy day and pools will be cleaned the following visit. That way you're not obligated to clean the pool at all. And if you can just do the chemicals only that day, that's fine. And if you're getting 2 or 3 inches of rain, trust me, the customer is not looking back there for you. They wouldn't even be able to see you if you're back there with that much rain. So just skip those pools and don't worry about it. So that's kind of how I deal with extreme weather. And I have a policy in place where the customer knows exactly what I'm going to be doing. And for you, I think it's the same way. You should have certain rules and guidelines of when you don't go out to do a pool, when you cut during your day, and ways to communicating that effectively to the customer is extremely important. If you're looking for other podcasts, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Monday through Friday, I'll post a podcast there. Also, if you go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, there'll be a drop-down menu with the podcasts, with a menu of over 1,700 podcasts. You click on the podcast icon there on the banner. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.